Let's start at the very core of this wild and frustrating situation. A woman by the name of Diane Kronstad, who runs a social media page called Fashion Digest, showed up at a small local family owned restaurant in New Orleans. She walked in, ordered food, took videos and photos, and left behind a huge surprise, a $300 bill that she simply refused to pay. And let's be clear, this wasn't some mix up. She claimed that she was an influencer visiting to review the place and that the food should be free. But there was never an agreement like that. Not even close. What followed was a whirlwind of confusion, text messages, public receipts, emotional posts, and finally, a cold and nasty review left by Diane. And the internet, oh, it noticed. But this isn't just about Diane. This is about how social media clout is sometimes used to manipulate or take advantage of people who are just trying to make an honest living, especially small business owners. Let's walk through what really happened. Bella Blue is the proud co-owner of the Pulcinella, a warm, intimate Italian restaurant tucked into a neighborhood in New Orleans. She opened it with her husband Andy with love and a leap of faith. They poured their hearts into creating a space that feels like home. The downstairs is where the magic happens. Plates of pasta, glasses of wine, and those little cozy details that make you feel like you're sitting in your grandma's kitchen. It's welcoming, personal, and full of heart. But Bella did not stop there. Upstairs, she built her true passion project, the original Nightcap, a cabaret-style venue that brings people together with laughter, music, and performances. It is a space for artists, dreamers, and the community to gather and celebrate creativity. Together, the restaurant and cabaret tell a story of culture, food, and belonging. They haven't even been open a full year yet. In fact, they're counting the months, not the milestones. This business is still in its infancy. They're new, small, deeply local. And for a place like the Pulcinella, every single customer isn't just a transaction, they're a lifeline. Every table filled means another day they can keep the doors open. Bella did not grow up dreaming about becoming a restaurant owner. This wasn't a childhood fantasy or a long term plan. It was something that found her. She took a chance, she saw an opportunity and chased it. With all the hope and heart she had, she jumped in without a roadmap, and like many first time entrepreneurs, she's been figuring it out step by step. She'll be the first to admit she's still learning, still growing, still making mistakes and fixing them along the way.
My name is Bella Blue. I am a New Orleans born and raised individual, and I'm a fancy no pants dancer for almost 20 years. And recently, I'm a restaurant owner along with my husband, Andy, and our business partner, JB. We own a little spot called Puccinello, which is located at 1300 St. Bernard Avenue and features Sicilian, Italian cuisine. And that's on the first floor. And then on the second floor is the original Nightcap, which is my cabaret club where we host all different kinds of events and things like that. We are new. We will be open 1 year in October.
But being new comes with risks. It comes with lessons you don't see coming. And unfortunately, it made Bella an easy target for someone who knew exactly how to twist her good intentions into an opportunity for themselves. Someone who walked through her doors not to support her vision, but to take advantage of it. It all began with a DM. The first message came from Diane. She slid into the Pulcinella's Instagram DMs with a message that seemed pretty standard on the surface. She introduced herself as a content creator and a blogger based in New York City. According to her bio, she covered food, fashion, tech, and lifestyle, and had a social media following of around 56,000. That sounds impressive, right? On paper, she seemed legitimate enough to pique curiosity. She wrote that she wanted to come by the restaurant, try the menu, and film some content. Maybe post a few reels, a story highlight, and a feature. She also mentioned bringing one other person, her content creator, which Bella understood as someone who would help her film and edit. Bella was intrigued. After all, this could help put the Pulcinella on the map. They were still so new, and any visibility would be a win. And Diane seemed like she knew what she was doing. But Bella also had her guard up. This wasn't her first time navigating uncertain territory as a small business owner. She instead of blindly saying yes, took a moment to ask something smart and clear. Are we expected to pay something? Comp food, drinks. I just don't want to set it all up and agree to something that I'm not totally clear on. This wasn't a loaded question. Bella wasn't being difficult or suspicious. She was just doing what any responsible owner would do: ask for clarity up front. Diane's response was equally direct, or at least it seemed that way at first. Non payment necessary for this visit. Just need to select from the food and drink menu to review and shoot photos or reels. This will be two people, myself and content creator.
Just want to say I'm a first time restaurant owner, never owned a restaurant, was not on the bingo card of life, did not think that that was ever going to be in my future. And there's a lot that I'm learning along the way. So I received a message via our Puccinella Instagram from this woman on this account that said, "Hey, we'd like to come in and do some content on the restaurant." Great, sounds like a plan. Before we lock everything in, can you give me some clarity? What are the expectations? And I will show you all screenshots. All of that will be at the end. Oh, New Orleans, it's about to rain. Oh, eventually I'm going to get through this. So I asked for clarity. I was like, hey, are we going to expect him to pay anything, comps, all of that stuff? She's like, nope, just going to get two things. We're going to send, I think she said 2 to 3 influencers, and we'll do a story, some stories, a reel, whatever. I was like, great, sounds great. Do you want to come to the show also? Because on Friday nights we do the dinner and a show option. She says, yes, that's great. It's cool. 6:30 p.m. Da 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 da. Right?
Now, most people reading that would interpret it the same way Bella did. The restaurant doesn't need to pay Diane, and the influencer would come in, buy food, film, and leave a review. Bella felt assured. She believed they were all on the same page. It was a win win, right? But here's the problem. Diane's wording was vague, just vague enough to leave room for interpretation. And later, she'd use that vagueness to twist the situation into something entirely different. What Diane meant and what Diane said were not the same. And that gap, it turned out to be costly. Bella had no idea what was coming next. It was all set for Friday. Diane and her content partner were scheduled to arrive at 6:30 p.m. Bella had even mentioned the cabaret show upstairs and thought maybe they would enjoy both the dinner and the performance. It could have been a fun night for everyone involved: good food, good music, and a boost in visibility for the restaurant. But just hours before the dinner, Diane messaged to say they would be late. The new arrival time, 8 p.m. No real explanation, just a casual time change. Bella, still trusting and accommodating, did not think much of it. She had a show to manage upstairs that night anyway. Her husband, Andy, was more than capable of handling things in the dining room. The dining room was busy. Staff were working hard to serve the tables, and Bella was juggling her responsibilities upstairs when she got a sudden message from one of her servers. It wasn't a simple check-in, it was urgent. Something was wrong. Bella's stomach dropped. She grabbed her phone and the screenshots from her conversation with Diane and headed down the stairs as quickly as she could. She thought it would be a quick fix, a misunderstanding. Maybe Diane had forgotten the argument. Maybe she just needed to be reminded. But what Bella walked into was not confusion. It was confrontation.
So that day, she ends up changing her reservation to 8 p.m. Not the end of the world, just means that she's not going to come to the show. That's fine. Still, we'll get some attention for the restaurant. That sounds great. Um, so I'm upstairs doing the show. I'm not downstairs on the floor. Andy was downstairs on the floor that night. And so fast forward, it's the end of the show. Things are wrapping up. I am getting everybody paid. I get a text message from my server, and she says, hey, can you come downstairs? Because the influencer is saying that she's not supposed to pay anything. And so I go downstairs. At this point, I'm armed and ready, right? I have my phone in my hand. I have the message pulled up. I'm like, ready. Walk over to her table, and she's like, oh, you misunderstood me. That means that you just don't have to pay us, but everything should be comped.
Diane was calm but firm. She insisted that the argument was that everything would be calm. She claimed that influencers never pay for meals during reviews, that it was just the way things work. She acted surprised that Bella did not know this, framing it as if Bella was somehow out of touch or inexperienced. Bella, hearing this, was thrown off. It was her first year running a restaurant, and though she had done her due diligence, and this wasn't the kind of thing you learn from a handbook. And for a moment, she paused. She started questioning herself. Had she misread the message? Had she misunderstood the tone? Could she have misinterpreted what Diane meant? It was a powerful moment of doubt. Diane's confidence and tone were so convincing that Bella, armed with facts and receipts, still felt the ground shift beneath her. That is how manipulation works. It doesn't always come loud and rude. Sometimes it comes softly, wrapped in authority, packaged as if it's you. who missed something obvious. Then came the worst part. Diane and her guest ordered 17 items. Yes, 17. Food, drinks, the work. Together, their tab added up to $300. Bella was shocked, like truly stunned. Her eyes darted between the receipt and Diane, almost in disbelief. She tried to keep her composure, despite the weight of frustration that was building. She did not want to escalate things further, especially not in front of her staff or other diners. So, she and Andy calmly pulled Diane aside, away from the busy dining area, hoping for a mature, respectful conversation. They weren't even asking for the full $300 at this point. In fact, Bella was ready to eat the cost, literally. All they wanted was for Diane and her guests to show some basic decency, a tip, a thank you, a gesture of goodwill to the server who had just spent over an hour tending to them. But instead of doing the bare minimum, Diane crossed a line. She looked Bella straight in the face and said, "Is $300 too much for you?" The words cut like a knife.
And I was like, but I asked you for clarity. Um, and and she's like, no, I mean, that's how this works, and this is what we do. And so then at that point, Andy and I go to the side and are chatting, and I was like, look, I was like, my mistake. I didn't realize. I will cover the cost of this. I'll make sure the server gets tipped out. And he's Italian. He's like, no. So we're standing there and we're like looking at the tab and trying to figure out how she has racked up such a high bill because it's almost $300. And if you've been to my restaurant, you know that for two people to rack up a $300 bill, you have to order a lot of stuff because we work really hard to keep everything very comparably priced and accessible to everyone. And so I'm going to show y'all at the end to show you what she ordered just so that you can see. But yeah, a lot of it was drinks. There are a lot of drinks on there, as you can imagine. There was food as well. I'm looking at it right now while we're talking, but I'll show you that at the end. So anyway, proceed. Andy starts to step in, and Andy is addressing this and saying, my wife is the one that you were talking to. She asked for clarity. This is deceptive. And the fact that you all are willing to come in here and ring up a $300 tab and that you expect it to be comped is kind of ludicrous. And so, there's some fussing that happens back and forth. We were like, we expect you to at least tip our server, and we're going to figure this out on our end, but you need to leave now. And so they end up leaving. It was her and one other person, an older gentleman. Neither of them really looked like influencer-y to me. Not no insults to the influencers. I know some lovely influencers out there who are wonderful people, but they didn't like have the look or the vibe or whatever kids are saying these days. Anyway.
This wasn't just a question, it was mockery disguised as concern. It was dismissive, condescending, especially coming from someone who had just refused to pay the exact amount she was now throwing in Bella's face. That moment said it all: the entitlement, the manipulation, the complete disregard for the effort, time, and money that Bella and Andy had invested in their restaurant and in that night. Talk about audacity,
okay?
or maybe
I didn't
just
know.
plain cruelty. Eventually, Bella and Andy had no choice but to ask Diane and her friend to leave. The situation had dragged on too long, and it was starting to create tension not just between them, but among the restaurant staff and nearby customers who were beginning to notice the commotion. Before they left, though, there was one final exchange. Diane and Bella agreed verbally that neither party would speak about the incident online. It was a shaky truce, but one that Bella hoped would at least allow her to protect her restaurant's reputation from further damage. The hope was to end things quietly and move on. Bella, exhausted and emotionally drained, clung to that hope. But the truth is, the damage had already started to ripple out. Unknown to Bella, several customers had seen the interaction unfold. Some took out their phones. A few had even recorded parts of the argument, short, blurry clips of the tense exchange between a woman who claimed to be a social media influencer and a visibly stressed restaurant owner trying to keep her business afloat. Those videos, small as they were, found their way to social media. They did not go viral instantly, but they reached enough people. The whispers turned into murmurs, and soon the murmurs became a quiet buzz. And then, just a few days later, despite the argument, Diane broke the silence. She posted a cold, calculated public review. Not just a light critique, but a scathing takedown of Bella's restaurant, carefully worded to appear objective but laced with obvious disdain. Here's what Diane posted on Google. Keep this place. Not worth the hype or price. The restaurant is in rundown, sketchy location, and the interior looks like a plain barn. No charm or character, with hardly any customers. The food was average at best, yet priced like fine dining. Don't waste your time or money here. This was the same restaurant that had greeted her with open arms, a place that trusted her intentions, a place that welcomed her into its space with hopes of building a mutually beneficial connections. Bella and Andy had well allowed her to film, to take photos, to experience their food, their service, and their atmosphere, all without asking for anything in return. And what did they get? Not only did Diane leave without paying for the $300 meal she and her guests ordered, she left a review that was meant to wound. She did not just give an opinion, she delivered a hit job. This wasn't constructive criticism. This was a calculated public takedown. She described the neighborhood as sketchy, the interior as a plain barn, and the food as average, all while ignoring the warmth, community, and heart that defined the Pulcinella. It wasn't just dishonest, it was malicious. Bella read those words with disbelief, then hurt, then anger. That review did not just insult the pasta or the lighting, it tried to invalidate everything she and her husband had built from scratch. It tried to unravel a dream that had taken months of hard work, long nights, financial risk, and emotional labor to bring to life. It was more than a review. It was betrayal, and it cut deeper than any Yelp star rating ever could. Bella wasn't going to just sit back and let the lies fly. Not after everything she'd just endured. Not after having her integrity, her business, and her hard work publicly questioned by someone who had clearly come with ulterior motives. She did what any reasonable person would do in the age of digital accountability. She gathered the evidence and laid it all out. Screenshots of the Instagram messages, full text exchanges, the original DM that started it all, and perhaps most damning of all, the receipt that detailed the massive 17-item order, totaling $300. Every single item they consumed was listed plainly. This wasn't hearsay. This was cold, hard proof. Even more suspicious, Diane had actually tried to delete her first message, one where she initiated the conversations. It was a calculated move, presumably to make it look like Bella had been the one chasing her for coverage. But Instagram isn't that easy to fool. It leaves subtle traces. Deleted messages leave behind indicators, and those indicators showed that Diane was the one who reached out first. Bella exposed that too. And as for the messages, they were crystal clear. Diane had never once said that the food or drinks would be comped. She never even implied it. The only phrase she used, non-payment necessary for this visit, could only be interpreted one way, that the restaurant did not owe her any money for the content she planned to create. Nowhere in that message did she mention that she expected a free meal in exchange. There was zero discussion of comped food, zero argument that Bella would cover their tab. No terms, no contract, no expectations of a limit or even heads up. It was all smoke and mirrors from Diane's end. So Bella put the truth out on the open for her community, her customers, and anyone else who cared about fairness. Because when someone tries to take advantage of you and then rewrite the narrative, the best response is to show the receipts, and Bella had every single one. Bella took it as a learning moment, one she never wanted but knew she needed. It was a kind of painful experience that teaches you something you can't learn from a course or a mentor or a YouTube tutorial. This was real world grit, the kind that leaves you a little bruised but a lot wiser. From now on, nothing would be left to chance. No handshakes without paperwork, no arguments through casual DMs. Everything would be documented, spelled out, and mutually agreed upon. If expectations weren't clear, the deal would not move forward. Bella now knew the cost of ambiguity, and it was exactly $300. She hopes this experience can serve as a cautionary tale, not just for herself, but for every small business owner out there who's trying to make it work, especially those who are new, hopeful, and eager to grow, because those are often the people most vulnerable to being taken advantage of. So here's the new rule. If someone wants free food or services in exchange for promotion, they need to say it, plain and simple. And if a business agrees, then it should be on written terms with clear deliverables. But no small business should ever be ambushed, misled, or manipulated into footing a surprise bill, especially not one as hefty as $300. This wasn't just a review gone wrong, it was a wake-up call, and Bella answered it with resilience, clarity, and the determination to never let it happen again. Let's talk about Diane. She markets herself as a New York City blogger, a content creator with a curated online presence and a follower count that clocks in at around 56,000. On paper, that might be impressive, but when you look closer, things start to feel off. Her engagement is suspiciously low. Posts that should be buzzing with interaction sit mostly quiet. The like counts don't match the follower numbers. And then there's the most telling part. Her comments are completely turned off. Since this entire scandal erupted, Diane had stayed completely silent. No statement, no explanation, not even a vague story post addressing what happened. Her social media went from curated lifestyle content to radio silence overnight. She turned off comments across her platforms, likely in an attempt to dodge the backlash. She can give out public reviews but can't handle any public feedback herself. That silence, that sudden disappearance, it doesn't look like professionalism. It looks like retreat. And the internet, it picked up on it immediately. People began calling it out for what it is. Not mystery, not privacy, but guilt. So what do you think? Was this a simple mistake or was it a calculated trick? Because from everything we've seen, this looks like someone who knew what she was doing. A grift, a way to get free food from a small business trying to survive. But the truth came out, and now the Pulcinella is more popular than ever. People are booking tables, leaving real reviews, supporting Bella and Andy. As for Diane's barn comment, well, it turns out that barn has a lot of heart, and now a full house every night. Hit like, drop a comment, and let us know what you think. Have you ever seen something like this happen to a local business? Share your thoughts, and remember, support your local spots, especially the ones like the Pulcinella, who are trying to build something honest from the ground up. Thank you for tuning in. More stories like this coming soon.